I want to paint the way that Gilbert Gottfried told jokes. I know that sounds weird. Gilbert said that when he was on stage, killing and bombing were the same thing. That's the best painting advice I've ever heard. As usual, the way into painting has nothing to do with painting. For me, what Gilbert meant was that the process, the transfer of energy between artist and audience, was more vital than the product. Whether or not a joke or a painting worked, and I hate that term, is beside the point. When killing and bombing become the same thing, you don't just lower the stakes, you eliminate them. That's when the truth comes out.
Think about it. What if you gave a pink slip to the quality control department in your brain and painted without fear? What if you suspended good taste and just made marks and more marks? No bad or good, only concentrated energy. What if you stopped painting entirely? I think of stopping all the time. For me, a painting is like a tortilla chip. It's just the delivery system for guacamole. My intention is to provoke radiance. If I could do that in a kitchen or on a tightrope, I would quit tomorrow. But nothing fills me with a rage for life more than painting. And now I feel like a big frozen margarita. I pledge allegiance to daily work. This is highly orchestrated spontaneity. I'm not making serious decisions when I move paint. It's radio silence up there. I never think while I paint. I do. There is no upside to a fear of failure. Anything self-conscious looks precious, and that's anathema to painting. What matters is the transfer of energy from my skin to the skin of the paint. Painting is a physical act. If it looks good, it is good. Don't ask, what does it mean, until you ask, what am I looking at? A painting should refer to the body of the solitary viewer, with a bottom corresponding to the feet, a middle, and a top that refers to the area around the head. Every 45 seconds, I put down my brush, back up 10 feet, and analyze. Then, I pick up the brush, turn off the ticker tape, and do. If it sucks, I scrape it off. Who cares? In other words, be good, not great. Would you rather see a man fly through the air 2 feet off the ground? Or see the same man with cinder blocks strapped to his ankles rise 2 inches off the ground? Any clown can knock it out of the park once in a while, but a career is built on consistency. If your intention is to get it right, be a pilot, not a painter. Philip Guston said, "Everyone knows what art is, except the artist." The artist apparently does not have to seek the ultimate ends of art so much as the means to continue working. Only an amateur walks into his or her studio and says, "Today I will be brilliant." A pro simply shows up, regardless of the results. People are smart. They know a blowhard when they see it. Telling the truth from your heart is the highest sign of respect for your audience. Never underestimate the audience. Art students are frightened into thinking that they must be original right out of the gate, or risk mediocrity. They face constant pressure to grow and evolve. Those are art school bullshit words. There is great poetry in repetition, in doing the same thing over and over for a long time. That's how you get good at stuff. No one talks about that. Duke Ellington said, "The wise musicians are those who play what they can master."
Making what you think will sell means you're working for someone else. But that's commerce, not painting. Never be the smartest person in the room. When Google was first starting out, the directors had a meeting to decide whether to feature ads on their platform. The winner argued in favor of ads, but it was the loser of that argument who suggested that the ads be skippable and placed in the margins. And that's what made Google successful. The loser had the best ideas.
The art world loves winners, but that has nothing to do with our daily practice. Don't ask, am I good? But rather, will I continue? I have survived countless art world fashions because I have low expectations. I find that people with high expectations usually have low resilience. You are not a painter. You are a terrier with a slipper. In other words, never take your foot off of the throat of what you're doing. The job of an artist is to resist the limitations of our materials, whether it's stubborn oil paint, sore tendons for dancers, impervious marble for sculptors, or time itself for musicians. All of us push back against self-imposed limitations. That friction is both our wound and salvation. Try eliminating the quality control department in your brain and let a painting fail. Then keep pushing. Good taste and good painting aren't always the same thing.
The most radical thing you can do is be yourself. Museums are brimming with spectacles directed at crowds, not the individual. The more difficult it is to understand, the more exclusive. There's too much focus on meaning in contemporary art. Everyone has to know what it means. And the art world has become a ticker tape to satisfy that need. It's arrogant to assume that art needs us to figure it out. It's okay to just let stuff wash over you. So much of the painting I see in galleries is so-called political paintings, full of outrage and resentment, but they don't go far enough. Simply fetishizing anger demonstrates a fundamental failure to the viewer because it plays to the crowd, not the individual. Seeing is a solitary endeavor. The artist-to-audience ratio for painting is 1-to-1. That's what I love about Alice Neel, because she always volleys it back to us, the audience, as if to say, don't look at me, look at us. The same for Gilbert. Killing and bombing become the same thing, and that's when the truth comes out. Society doesn't need us artists to give sound fiduciary advice. They need us to go bananas.
Here's some advice. Be patient. You can't learn what paint does by reading books. You must monkey around with it in your studio. Mix colors directly on the canvas, not the palette. You can't create harmonies from 2 feet away. Show up every day, regardless of the results. You can't be what you can't see. Love is for the ones who love the work. Don't try too hard. An artist is born the moment he or she gives up. If you're making art, you're trying too hard. Stop it. The best paintings look like work, not art. I gave up trying long ago, and what was left over, that sleep-deprived, desperate version of myself, was my spark. I've built a successful career fanning that spark. An artist should never let the audience know how much technique they possess. Because if they are truly communicating, the content is automatically built into the process. The artist uses precisely enough technique to tell the truth. No more, no less. Practice constantly so that you can develop such fine muscle memory that you don't think while you paint. Practice to lose technique instead of acquire it. Try different mediums. Not only linseed oil, but walnut or lavender spike oil. Try holding the brush with your non-dominant hand. and vary the pressure with which you apply the paint. Don't kill the brushstrokes with too much fussing. The first few strokes want to be the most honest. Let them. Try the bug zapper technique, in which you load a brush, stand with your back to the canvas, then turn suddenly and make one mark, then stop. As Lorne Michaels of Saturday Night Live said, "We don't go on air because we're ready. We go on because it's 11:30. You have to stop sometime." Think of colors like a pack of playing cards dumped out on a table. A pile of overlapping layers, some visible and others partially concealed. I spend all day stacking planes of color on a flat surface. Every plane change is a color change, not a tone change. For example, witness how Raphael Sawyer stacks planes by increasing their saturation. From the background wall, to the couple embracing in the middle distance, to the cadmium red of the woman's scarf. In this Lucian Freud, the foreground dog and the woman's arm occupy the front plane. The rest of her body and the second dog occupy the middle plane, and the crumpled paint rags supply the third. Notice that her front arm is warmer in hue than her back arm. Every plane change is a color change, not a tone change. If we take this self-portrait by Lucian Freud, turn it into mono, just black and white, we can see that the darks represent the third background plane, the middle values the middle plane, and the lighter values the foreground plane. 3 cards stacked on top of one another. To visualize planes, first squint to see large masses rather than individual parts. Second, consider the stretcher itself. Run your hands slowly around it to telegraph its physicality into your nervous system. A stretcher is not a support. It's the first shape. Just as the first line you paint is the 5th line. The first 4 are the sides and top of the canvas. Third, reduce the entire composition into 3 ovals, like soap bubbles stuck together: large, medium, and small, with the smallest bubble being the focal point, or center of interest. Never do any 2 things the same. Although not every painting has to have a center of interest, consider Jackson Pollock's Autumn Rhythm or Mark Tobey's World, both examples of what's called all-over painting. Which brings me to a term that one of my favorite art historians, Fritz Novotny, called open form. Scottish painter Francis Cadell is a good example of open form, which refers to the sovereignty of forms, colors, and lines that threaten the objective representation of visible reality. In other words, paint isn't used in the service of form, but as form. When you see the world as shapes and colors, it's easier to paint shapes and colors. What do you think? Is he painting the light or the thing being lit? Color and form are inseparable. In his book, Art, Clive Bell wrote, "You cannot conceive of a colorless space, neither can you conceive of a formless relation of colors."
When you're painting from nature, look quickly at your subject and then close your eyes. This will help burn the important stuff, the obvious stuff, into your retina. That's why I never carry a sketchbook, because I want stuff to bug me. I want that pebble in my shoe. And if I go around sketching every single thing I see, it takes out some of the mystery. I always approach painting as a fanboy, not as a scholar.
Work across the image, like a boxer working a ring. If you put a blob of cobalt blue in one corner, travel it to the opposite corner without analysis. Light is messy, so be messy. Scrape, drag, and wipe the paint with rags. If you could be neat and capture light, you'd be the greatest painter on earth. I associate brightness of color with the brilliance of light. Nicolas de Stael didn't paint the flowers, but their deferred presence. There's a difference. We are each equipped with our own visual and mental apparatus, but a painting is a set of borrowed apparatus. We see through someone else's eyes. As soon as you set up a still life, it already exists in the realm of art because it was organized with aesthetics in mind. What's more real, what you see or what you feel? A painting of flowers is more real than the actual flowers because it passed through the prism of the painter's lived experience. In other words, the laws of nature have been bent to fit the laws of art. That's why every painting is abstract, because the artist chooses what to keep or kill. What you don't change, you choose. Author Stephen King said, "The best way to deal with critics is to outlive them." When my weight reached my street number, 258, I decided to lose some pounds. They say no man is an island, but I gave it my best shot. I just turned 59, and I'm drinking less and exercising more. One of the things I value most in my career is its longevity. I used to think that just because an artist is in a gallery or museum, they must be good. I was wrong. They're lucky. If that same artist is still showing in 25 years, they're good. Time, not the market, determines quality. One of the great honors of this journey came last August when the South Caroliniana Library acquired my letters for its permanent archives. If you had told the 17-year-old me that I'd play a small part in telling the story of my home state, I'd have said, "Are you karate kidding me?" But I saved everything with the secret hope that this might happen. On our dining table, it became an archaeological excavation into a 4-decade career. My hope is to assemble a roadmap for future artists, not only into what I did, but how I did it. I spent 2 months compiling newspaper articles, exhibition catalogs, early drawings and paintings, going back to 10 years old, first drafts of books, scripts from my videos, notebooks, personal correspondence, and even some unique items like this 3-dimensional painting I submitted for Myrtle Beach Day back in 1987. I lost to a watercolor of puppies on the beach painted by the mayor's wife. I am so okay with that. So, no matter where you are in your career, save stuff. The best way to talk about art is to tell a story.